Hello and welcome. My name is Wilfred Ngwa. I am an infectious disease epidemiologist and microbiologist. I am also the founder of EpiGuide. We are in lesson 1 of our course entitled Setting Up of a Monitoring and Evaluation System with a focus on health programs. In this lesson, we will be looking at an overview of monitoring and evaluation. This lesson gives a practical difference between monitoring and evaluation. It looks at the when, the why, the what, and how of monitoring and evaluation. We will look at the project cycle under the when component of monitoring and evaluation. And lastly, I will be talking about the major difference between monitoring and evaluation vis-a-vis operational research. So let's get started. The graphs displayed are extracts taken from the project we will be using as our case study throughout this course. I mentioned this case study in our previous video, which detailed the outline of this course. Just so you follow easily, please follow the lessons in the order in which they are posted. That said, let's continue. The first graph shows the number of malaria cases for the years 2017, 2018, and 2019 plotted by month. The second graph shows yearly measurements of the under 5 mortality rate for 2017, 2018, and 2019. Remember, the project started in January 2017. And also that the acceptable under 5 mortality rate or threshold value is 1.0. This is shown by the red dotted line in our second graph. The first graph is a monitoring graph and the second graph an evaluation graph. Let's now walk through the differences of monitoring and evaluation while making use of these graphs. The first difference we will look at is in terms of frequency. In monitoring, the data collection and reporting process is done routinely and on a regular schedule. In evaluation, the process of data collection and reporting is episodic, which could be scheduled, but not necessarily. We see in our monitoring graph that data is collected routinely and reported on a monthly basis. On the evaluation graph, the process is episodic and is done on a yearly basis, but it can be done every 2 years or just once at the end of the project. The second difference is with respect to the primary objective. The primary objective of monitoring is for tracking in order to have an oversight of project activities. With evaluation, the primary objective is to have an assessment of program activities. Our monitoring graph tells us that more and more children are taking up free treatment service moving from the year 2017 here in the blue line and going up to 2019 on the gray line. If we look at the zone 2, it also tells us that there's an increased demand in the free treatment services beginning from the month of May and moving up right to the month of December. The evaluation graph, on the other hand, tells us that mortality is decreasing over time. We see that the mortality decreases from 2017 when the program started to 2018 but did not meet the target yet. It further decreases from 2018 to 2019, going below the target. The third difference is with respect to focus. Monitoring permits us to verify conformity to program guidelines, process indicators, quarterly and annual goals, as well as work plans. Evaluation, on the other hand, permits us to assess the effectiveness of our programs, impact, cost effectiveness, relevance, population health projects, and modeling. Our goal could be to treat 20,000 children on a yearly basis, while monitoring tells us whether or not we are meeting this target. Evaluation tells us why we met or did not meet the targets. If we look keenly at the graph for 2019 on the monitoring graph, we will realize that in August to September, there's a decrease in the number of cases. But over the previous years, it was fairly uniform. Let's look at 2017, then we look at 2018. Now there's a big question. Why this sharp drop? We need to investigate to understand. So we carry out detailed review to try to understand what was going on. And we realized that children in one of the villages which used to access our services were no longer coming, just a few were coming. So we sent a team to verify what was happening. And that reduced access was due to one of the rivers had overflowed its banks and broken the lone bridge that connects the village to our health facility. So we had to send a mobile clinic where our team had to consult these children in the field. So you see how monitoring can show you a problem, and then evaluation makes you identify and solve this problem. That said, let's look at the fourth example. The fourth example is with respect to data sources. Data for monitoring comes from routine clinical data, routine surveillance systems, field observations, and progress reports. For evaluation, data can come from the same sources as that for monitoring, but also it can come from surveys and special studies, like the one mentioned in the previous example. The evaluation data obtained for our case study was from a survey. So the data obtained here was from a survey which we did on a yearly basis. And as already said, that from our previous example is what we call a spatial study. It's not a study planned, but it's a study that you go to see or find explanations for what is going wrong in your routine data. This slide gives us just a summary of what we discussed in the previous slide. We see that there are 5 main differences between monitoring and evaluation. The first is frequency, which we talked about. For monitoring, it is routine, it is regularly scheduled. For evaluation, it is episodic. In terms of the primary objective, that for monitoring is for tracking in order to have an oversight of our projects. The primary objective for evaluation is to have an assessment of what is going on. The third is purpose. The purpose for monitoring is to have mid-course corrections to improve the efficiency of our programs, while the purpose for evaluation is to improve the effectiveness and to impact future programming of our projects. The focus on monitoring is to look at the conformity or the fidelity to our program guidelines, process indicators, quarterly and our annual goals, as well as our work plans. While that for evaluation is to look at the effectiveness of our programs, the impact, the cost effectiveness, the relevance, the population health projections, as well as modeling. As said already, Data sources for monitoring can come from routine clinical data, from routine surveillance systems, from field observations, and from progress reports. While that for evaluation could be same as this for monitoring, but we can also get data from surveys and spatial studies. There could be many reasons why we monitor and evaluate, but two really stand out. The first is that we want to ensure that we are collecting accurate information about our programs and activities. The second is that we want to ensure that we are using this information to improve our programs and activities.